Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about the unsolved mystery of Erik Cross. And I say unsolved because technically they have like a very solid suspect, but they're not able to like directly prove this said suspect. But let's just get into it. So Erik Cross, he was a 16-year-old boy that lived in Vicksburg, Michigan. He had red hair and blue eyes. He was white, and they say he was about 135 pounds, but when you Google it, you can find different size ranges. So the night of his disappearance, he was traveling to a party. Him and his friends went to what they called a kegger, which is basically just like a party, but with like alcohol and kegs and all of that stuff like that. And he went with his friend, who later becomes a suspect, and that was Bill Cook. Sorry, if I'm looking down, I have my my notes right here just so I don't like mess anything up. But so Bill Cook was at the party with Erik, but they later split up as Bill went to swim with a girl. They were swimming in the lake, and he told Erik he was gonna go swimming, and then he'll be right back. But by the time he got back, Erik disappeared. He was like he left the party. He went home basically, except he never really made it. He made it home, but he didn't make it inside the home. So on his way back, he was seen at the local general store and the gas station, but that was where was that exactly? That was 130 yards away from the home. There was two cars that were seen there. There was a dark car and a yellow car that were parked at the general store that people like seen as they saw him walking like past the general store and through that or whatever. And the dad did hear he was sitting in the house. So there was Erik that was walking. He walked past like the general store and the gas station. And then around 5 a.m., the dad heard a loud muffler noise, and that was about 5. And then he went out to get the newspaper at 5:30 when he found Erik's body laying in the road. And he ran out to Erik, and he had blunt force trauma. He had a large gash on his lower back. So he found that. And that's what they think the cause of death was the blunt force trauma. It's not just like the large gashes, because he did have some like broken limbs and all of that stuff as well. But that wasn't what they thought caused his death, just the blunt force trauma. And so him and his wife ran out, and the wife ran with a blanket from the inside of the house to Erik in the road and covered Erik up. And then she ran to find their local neighbor, who was a nurse or a doctor, someone in the medical field. I feel like it was a nurse, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But she ran to the house to get him to perform CPR. But by the time they got over to Erik, they said there was just no point in taking action in that way because Erik has already passed away. But Erik just has a sister who is Jackie Mitchell, and she was talking about the night of the disappearance as everything was fine. Before he left, they were chit-chatting, and she can remember the night vividly. She even mentions a song he was listening to, Look of Love, and she was just talking about how he was totally fine. She sent him off on his way to the party, and she woke up at 6 a.m. to find her brother dead, as her parents told her that he was in the hospital, but she could tell by the look in her mom's eyes that he had died. And so that is the general background story of where he was and how he died. But now we're going to get into the suspects and who they believed murdered him, basically. And so the thought is there was the hit and run theory that possibly he was just walking home and someone hit him and they just left him there for today and they walked away. And not walked away, they drove away because they were in a car, but that they hit him and they ran because they didn't want to be, guilty and faced with murder charges or homicide or any of that nonsense. So that was the first theory. Or the second theory was hood surfing, which if you guys, sorry, I keep doing that, it's just really annoying, but hood surfing. And if you don't know exactly what that is, at the time it was super popular in the 1980s. And between 1990 and 2008, there was over 58 cases of hood surfing deaths. And basically it's where they tie people up with ropes and they like drag them from cars and like swerve around, so they're like dragging around the cars and stuff. That was another thing he had in his body. He had rope lacerations around his wrists, like he had been tied, which is why they thought hood surfing was what it was he was messing around with his friends in the car and they were dragging around, and then he fell in front of the car and they crushed him and they ran over him, and then they left him and went on because they just murdered somebody. And that was what they originally thought. And that's still what they think is like what could have happened, but they don't think that he hood surfed voluntarily. Like, it was a very popular thing for people to do back then, but they don't think that he did it on purpose. Like, he was like, oh, let's do this will be funny. They think that he was forced into it, as it was like a laughing joke between all of the people in the car. So they think that it was the dark car that was at the like gas station, like confinement shop, like that place. They think it was the dark car, and people that were said to be in the car is Brent Spalding, Brent's father, Amber Thomas, his former friend Bill Cook, the friend that I was talking about that went to the party with him, and then Tim Martin. And so Brent was the main suspect. They are the one that they believe murdered Erik. He was known as the like school bully, basically. And he was in and out of jail, and that's who they thought murdered him, as he like hated everybody, and he was somebody that would kill somebody. He was in and out of jail. He had he was in there for, I feel like, abuse of Amber, who was another one that was in the car, like domestic violence basically, as they believe she was like forced into it by Brent. That he was like, hey, like, I'm gonna beat you if you don't get in this car with me and do this with us. And they also think that Bill is involved in that because Bill dated Spalding's sister, Brent. So that's how they think that they're all involved that way, that Bill was dating Brent's sister, and so then Brent forced him in the car, threatened Amber with violence, got her in the car. And then it didn't say anything about Tim Martin, I believe. Yeah, Tim Martin. They didn't say anything about him or like how they believe him to be involved. But Jackie, his sister, even claimed that she could think of 8 to 10 suspects that could murder her brother, including their parents. And she could see Brent's family being one to lash out and kill somebody, as that's just something that their family would be inclined, or they believed they would do. So that's what they mainly think, that Brent was the driver of the car with the other people of Tim Martin, Bill Cook, Amber Thomas, and Brent's dad. They were all the people in the car. They tied Erik to the car, some hood surfing, crushed him, and kept going. And it's super morbid and sad to think that he was just walking home from a party, and he was probably doing to save his bet, not drinking and driving, because he was 16. So I'm assuming that he had his license. But so it's sad to think that he was possibly trying to save himself from hurting someone else by drinking under the influence. But in the end, he was the one that was hurt. But it's also said that his dad found him, that he went out and he heard the doorknob jingling at the door. I think that was at 2 or 3 a.m., which is what I was looking at earlier. But he did hear the rattling of the doorknob, which he assumed was Erik, but the door was locked, so Erik couldn't get in. So maybe they think that he came home at like 2 or 3, but he couldn't get in, so then he went to the general store, and that's when they saw him, the people in the dark car saw him, and then messed around with him, and that was the loud muffler sound that his dad heard at 5 a.m. So that's what they believe. Obviously, they can't prove any of this. This is all theorized, and I believe this. I believe that Brent is in charge of this murder. And I guess the good news, if you can have good news in this case, is that Brent is in jail. He he's been, well, not maybe not right now, but he's been in and out of jail the last years because of all these charges that he's been faced with other cases, not just directly Erik's case. So that's good news, but it is sad because everybody in Vicksburg wants justice for Erik, as this was a smaller knit community, and they want this case solved as much as the parents and everybody else in the world wants it solved. And they do have candlelight vigils to like a memorial service for him. They did that on his birthday for a few years now. So that's a nice thing they do, try to keep his memory alive there. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys have any more information, or if you do some research on yourself and you find just something, or if I erred and I said something wrong, please leave it down below, and I'd love to know so I don't make that mistake again, or I can clarify that for other people that are watching. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Don't forget to subscribe down below and share the video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, so I will talk to you guys later. Bye guys.